Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, comic book fan. Welcome to another episode of the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club. This is the series where I review a comic book, new or old, from my collection for the following dimensions: cover art, interior art, plot, and enjoyability of the comic, from a scale of 1 to 5. This week I'm reading Star Wars #1, published by Marvel Comics in 2020. If you'd like the audio version of the series, head on over to your favorite podcasting app, search VM Campos, and subscribe. And spoiler alert, I will be going to the various pages of this comic, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I would recommend you go off and buy the original yourself. Head on over to your favorite comic shops and buy the book before the review. You're helping your favorite creators and companies and local shops, and it's really worth it. I recommend it. So let's get started. Now, as usual, a little bit of background info. This series needs no introduction. Star Wars has been a mainstay in the world of comics for decades. It actually started in Marvel Comics in the 70s, so right before the publication of, or right before the release of Star Wars in theaters in 1977, Marvel was publishing the series, so you could see what was going to happen in the movie with the comics. Same thing with the novels. So Star Wars was at Marvel Comics from 1977 to 1986 or so, and then after that it went off to Dark Horse Comics, where it stayed there from the early 90s all the way to like 2015. Then it went back to Marvel Comics. So they've started the series from brand new #1, which went on to 75 issues, and then they stopped it. And then they started again for 2020. Well, the first volume, or what is that even, volume 2 or whatever, of Star Wars coming back to Marvel Comics was all centered about what happened right after the events of A New Hope. Those 75 issues were what happened after A New Hope. Then we have Empire Strikes Back, and then we have here volume 2, volume 3, whatever, of Star Wars starting back at #1 again, and this takes place right after Empire Strikes Back. So that's kind of interesting continuity and a little bit interesting to know about the book. It is also the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back in the year 2020. 40 years ago, The Empire Strikes Back debuted in 1980. And most people confirm that that is the best Star Wars of all. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Let's get on with the regular review. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the cover art. Now, I picked up one of the variant covers. This is one of the ones that like showcases a thing, I guess, or a character or whatever in the world of Star Wars. And I got #1 of 36. Not sure if there's 36 variants of this cover, or this is like 1 of 36 of these like showcase covers. I think it's going to be 1 of 36 of these like variant showcase covers, because they did that also with the previous volume of Star Wars. So this is the Probe Droid variant, which is 00151. So it's the 5th variant of this. This one is a cover by Chris Sprouse, Carl Story, and Narij Menon. I don't like it too much. I would have rather had one of the famous characters of Star Wars. It's drawn well. The colorization is nice. I like the lens flare in the Probe Droid's camera or spotlight or laser or sight scope or whatever that is, and the sense of the ice melting on Hoth looks nice, but I would have preferred something else. On a technical level, it's very good, but I didn't like it too much. For my own personal collection, I would have preferred a different cover, so it's totally subjective. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. On a technical level, it's very good. You can rate it a 5 out of 5 on that, but I would have rather had a different cover. This is the last one on the shelves, so I kind of had to get what I needed to get, so that's what I give it. All right, interior art. This is by Jesus Said, colors by Arif Prianto, and letters by Clayton Cowles. Now, I kind of love that the very first page that you see of the comic is the "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away" blue text on a stark black background, and then we get the Star Wars logo taking a 2-page spread. The classic Star Wars logo on a 2-page spread on a starfield. I can really hear the sounds of those trumpets playing as John Williams' theme starts and I see this text. So I love that. Then there's a crawl. There's an opening crawl. This is called Destiny, the Destiny Path Part 1, and it kind of explains this story happens after The Empire Strikes Back. So let's see. And Luke now reels from his defeat at the hands of Darth Vader. So interior art is very good. The style is a very realistic style. We have some very dramatic shots. At the very beginning, we are recounted Luke losing his hand at the Battle of Cloud City against Darth Vader, and a lot of inner monologue going on with the backdrop of that seemingly bottomless pit at the bowels of Cloud City. And it's literally, this takes place right after The Empire Strikes Back, before the rendezvous with the rest of the fleet. Even Lando is still trying to convince everyone that, like, okay, I had to do it, Darth Vader threatened my town and so forth, my city. So the art is very good. It's the caricatures of the real life actors is very spot on. Some expressions are very nice. There's a C-3PO understated jokes when he says, I lost my arms and legs, I was blown apart. Everyone looks at him, and later, oh dear, to Jabba the Hutt, oh, he will certainly be murdered, Captain Solo, the first chance he gets. And everyone looks at him again. So great expressions, great panel layout. I think the colors, though, are a little too muted. Like, even when there is a huge space battle, I just kind of feel like there's too much of a certain tone in the colorization, which takes me away from it. But the art, the pencil drawings, the line art and such is good. There's not a lot of variety, though, in the brushwork. Everything's kind of like a solid, thin type of line, so there isn't too much of a variety of that. So I'm going to give the interior art a 4 out of 5. It's enjoyable, it's realistic. There's a couple of things that take me away from it. The colorization I'm not in love with, and the non-variety of line widths also, I'm not loving that. But I guess it's to kind of really form a realistic style. Expressions are good, posing, panel layout, and so forth. So 4 out of 5. The story is by Charles Soule, so a whole new creative team is on this Volume 2. I'm just going to keep calling it Volume 2, even though it's probably technically, what if you call Marvel's Volume 1 from the 70s and then Volume 2 from a few years ago, 2015, and now Volume 3. I'm just going to call it Volume 2, the Volume 2 return of Star Wars back to Marvel. So it's a whole new creative team for Volume 2 of this new Star Wars series, and we'll see how they do. Now, Charles Soule, of course, is a big, well-known name in the world of writing comics, and the story was enjoyable. It did fill in the pieces. The great thing about Star Wars is, like, we have the movies. Let's say we have the original 3 movies and then expanded to the 9 movies, plus Rogue One and Han Solo and everything, and The Mandalorian. Everything's canon. But let's say we have just the core canon, the movies. And let's say we just have the 2 movies of A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. There's still a lot that can be filled in, even if you watch and rewatch those movies over and over. Each one's about 2.5 hours long, so 5 hours of cinema. You can fill in so many gaps in the story. So I kind of like that. So Soule is doing a cool job about that, filling in the gaps. There's a strong undercurrent of PTSD. Luke is completely traumatized, completely broken here after his defeat of Darth Vader, but not even that. Spoiler alert, no, I am your father. That revelation of the Dark Lord of the Sith, which he wasn't called that in the beginning, of course, that he is Luke's father, that has completely traumatized him. He's lost his connection with Obi-Wan Kenobi, his mentor. He's lost. He didn't finish his Jedi training. There's a lot of that pessimism because, yes, just like any good 3-part story, there's the rising action, there's the hero at their lowest point, and then there's the resolution. We are at the lowest point in the story. After Empire Strikes Back, Han is captured. They were betrayed by Lando, who's trying to redeem himself. Luke is completely defeated physically, mentally. And this comic fills in the story about, it wasn't just a smooth sailing from Cloud City to to the rendezvous with the rest of the rebels, there was actually a huge firefight, which is canon, at the hands of Commander Zara. She's on Imperial Star Destroyer Tarkin's Will, and she's just about to wipe out the rebels where the Millennium Falcon was supposed to rendezvous with. Spoiler alert, they're not wiped out, because obviously then we see it happen at the last moments of Empire. But this is the fine line that these comics have to run, that there's the established movie canon, which is the top level. Back in the old days, it was called G canon. And then we have to fill in the gaps of things. So I think Sewell is doing a good job. This is a 5 out of 5. More Star Wars lore, the more better. Bad grammar aside. And lastly, we'll talk about the enjoyability of the book. I enjoyed it. I'll give it a 5 out of 5. Again, getting more of the various shards, more of the splinters of the mind's eye of what Star Wars is all about is always cool. This is a brand new jumping on point, so I applaud them on that in terms of this is a new Star Wars #1 to get into, the beginning of a new plot, so that's always good. On a side note, Marvel has been doing a variety of Stan's soapbox reprints in the comics, and so this is again about Stan Lee would reply to people's letters and such, and just give some great philosophical and life advice and thoughts. And here was yet another about none of us is all that different from each other. We all want essentially the same thing out of life, a measure of security, some fun, some romance, friendship, and the respect of our contemporaries. That goes for Indians, Chinese, Russians, Jews, Arabs, Catholics, Protestants, blacks, browns, white, and green-skinned hulks. So why don't we all stop wasting time hating the other guy? Just look in the mirror, mister. That other guy is you. Excelsior. So that elevated there. I like seeing these very progressive, affirmative Stan's soapbox columns that Marvel has been printed, so that always bumps up the enjoyability of the book. But the totality of it, because it's another Star Wars comic, well drawn, well plotted, this is a 5 out of 5 on the enjoyability scale. So once again, if you'd like to subscribe to the audio version of the podcast, head on over to your favorite podcasting apps. I'm on all of them. Spotify, Google Play, Pandora, Apple Podcasts. Search VM Campos and subscribe. Don't forget to like, rate, review, leave a comment for the podcast or this video. Tell me what you thought about the review of this comic. How would you rate it on the various factors that I did? Think about heading on over to Patreon, patreon.com/vmcampos. You can follow for free to be alerted to all the stuff that I do, podcasts, videos, Comic-Con stuff, live broadcasts, etc. If you go to the $1 tier, you'll unlock exclusive stuff. And if you go to the $2 tier, I'll actually mail you a comic book in appreciation. Also be on the lookout for the monthly comic hauls where I have a giveaway. Those happen at the end of the month, the last new comic book day of the month. Be on the lookout for that this month to enter the giveaway. So this week I read Star Wars #1, published by Marvel Comics in 2020. This has been the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club, and I'll see you next week.